Hello and welcome to Women's Biz Podcast. I'm Annie Gibbins, founder and CEO of Women's Biz Global, and I invite you to get comfortable and listen in on candid conversations I have with fascinating women from around the globe. Business leaders, entrepreneurs, humanitarians, athletes, and a whole lot of regular people. Tune in as they let their guard down and open up on aspects of their business and life journey, how they measure success, and what they have learnt along the way. These conversations aim to inspire you to embrace opportunities and possibilities beyond the limits of your imagination. Reclaim your power, strength, and vulnerability. Stand in your truth and propel yourself towards the life you dream to live. Hello and welcome everybody to Women's Biz Podcast. Annie here, and I am so thrilled to have you joining us for this week's episode. We are going to delve into the world of strategic business growth with a remarkable guest. Her name is Donna Dube, and she is a certified director of operations and a seasoned business growth strategist. So what better person to have on Women's Biz Podcast? She specializes in empowering established online service business owners to really just catapult their businesses towards greater impact and profitability without compromising their personal lives. And I'm all about that. And I know you beautiful listeners are as well. Through her innovative approaches, she helps to transform solopreneurs into confident CEOs, enabling them to thrive while maximizing a balance. And that's what we're wanting, isn't it? Our best balance, our life, our health, our relationships, and our businesses. Oh, it's such a fine art, isn't it? So we are going to glean her insights and her strategies today because I want all of you to elevate your entrepreneurial journey. So let's dive into our conversation. Welcome to the program, Donna.
Thanks, Annie. I'm so happy to be here. And what such awesomeness of technology where the two of us can meet like this on totally opposite sides of the world.
You know, it's so fantastic, isn't it? I just always just rejoice in the era that we're in because I just get to meet beautiful people such as yourself. And I'm in Sydney, Australia. You're in the US. And we just get to chat along. And all of our listeners around the world get to listen in or watch if they're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn Live. So how wonderful. Yes. Let's dive into talking about a better understanding about the business landscape. So what are the current common hurdles, challenges that you've noticed that small business owners face when they just get themselves entangled? It's so easy to do that in the day-to-day operations. You just get lost in that and you get frustrated in that. So what do you see as the biggest challenges?
Yeah, good question. And I think for many of us, this entanglement in the day-to-day happens naturally. So if you're listening and you feel like, yeah, that's me, don't think that you're, a unicorn out there. This happens to a lot of us because when you think about it, when we start our business, we're alone, right? We're the only person in our business and we are therefore doing everything. So we think about CEO, but at the beginning, we're more like chief everything officer. Yes. Right? We got to make the Canva images. We got to make the landing page. We got to write all the emails. We got to figure out this. We got to design the offers, the prices. Everything is under our control. I think what happens though, as we start to grow, we have to take a step back as the leader and adjust our mindset and realize, okay, now I can bring in someone who can help me a little bit. I can bring in someone who can help me over here and over here. And when I bring that person in, I have to adjust my job description because I'm no longer responsible for that detail of that task. I'm more looking from the outside in as a bigger picture. I want to make sure that thing is done, but I want to give my team member the autonomy and the room and the space to be able to do it. And what I need to focus on are those CEO level decisions that only the leader can do. Right? And so it's really that mindset shift that, yes, even though I may only have a couple of contractors working part-time for me, I'm still the CEO. And I need to ensure that I have time each and every week to be looking at my business with the CEO hat on and, making those decisions from a CEO mindset.
Yeah, I think that is such a shift and such great advice for all of us, because I know most of our listeners are in the trenches, right? That's it, that CEO of everything, doer of everything. And it's really hard to release that to other people. It's hard to work out, well, what is the most important, what's the order of how you contract others, bring people onto your team. But then initially, so many of my clients, I know yours would go, oh, I want someone to help me, but I'm still used to doing it all. So I then still micro-check everything. So there's a process there for our listeners of being able to, appoint them appropriately, train them up appropriately, and then let them do their job so that you can do more of yours, which is what I'd love to tap into next time, differentiating that growth from maintenance. All right. So you've been maintaining everything. You now want to grow. You're now freeing yourself up as that CEO, which means that you're wanting to do more CEO things, as opposed to all of the day-to-day things. What sort of insights can you share of what distinguishes tasks that directly contribute to your business's growth that aren't necessarily part of the status quo?
Yes, for sure. So I like to think of all the tasks that need to get done in your business. We can put them into two big buckets, only two: maintenance and growth. And so things that go in the maintenance bucket are going to be like your email sequences, your nurture sequences, invoicing, bookkeeping, social media, those types of things that, yes, they need to happen in your business. But as you grow, we have to start looking at, do they need to happen by you, the leader?
Yes.
The other bucket, the growth bucket, is tasks that are directly in line with increasing your revenue. So things like sales calls, if that's something you still do in your business, if you don't have a team or something, then sales calls, JV partnerships, networking, collaborations, right? The actual content of your next offer, program, service, whatever that's going to look like. Teaching. So if you teach in other people's masterclasses, or you have webinars that you do. Podcasting, right? Good example here. Annie needs to be the face of this podcast, but she can have other people help her with other parts of getting this podcast out into the world, right? But she can't have her team member come on and do this podcast.
Great
right?
example.
And so having those things in your weekly schedule and building time into your weekly schedule for those CEO level tasks is what really makes the difference going forward. And that helps you to then say, okay, but I only have so many hours in the day. If I'm going to be doing podcasting and this CEO level task and that one, what am I going to do with these maintenance tasks? And so there's kind of three areas you can think of for the maintenance tasks, depending on where you are and what stage of business you're on. One, you can delegate if you have a team member or you're ready to bring on a team member. Two, you can look at automations. So a lot of the technology we use today has a lot of automations. And I'm not saying replace the human aspect of our business. Definitely not. We still want that human touch. But there's things we can do in the background to make it easier through automations. And then the third piece is really evaluating, is this task that I'm doing bringing me a return on investment?
Yes.
And if it isn't, possibly I need to pause or stop this altogether. Right?
Brilliantly said. What great strategies as well that you've shared. And that's so true, because we get into this is what I do. Even if it was a podcast every week, like I've got a great example there. Here I am hosting it, loving chatting to everybody. But that's right. As soon as I could in my business, I want someone who's doing those setup calls. You would have chatted to Zoe, for example, my assistant, who organizes you to get to this time, or someone to put the trailers on either end of the podcast. How does it actually happen so that, myself can then be freed up to those growth-centric opportunities? I love what you shared on that third time as well, that sometimes, though, say I was having a podcast every week and no one was actually watching or listening to that podcast, or it wasn't meeting the mark. It's a really good opportunity to go, what is the return of investment? If it's everything takes time, a lot of what you shared there is time management, isn't it?
Yes.
Prioritizing time and time management. And so it's a good opportunity to go, before you outsource it to get help, before you, make sure that you free up yourself to do more of that, is that task actually bringing you, is that area of your business bringing in you a good return?
Yes. And I find, especially as business owners, we get caught up in the marketing space, adding a tactic after a tactic after a tactic, right? Because we start with something, we get impatient waiting to see if it'll work. We hear about a different tactic that somebody else might be doing, or it sounds interesting, and we add it on, but we don't go back and actually measure, right? And that's where your metrics and your data become so important. Just take that time to measure and reflect and say, okay, I'm putting whatever it is, 3-5 hours a week into this. What's the return? And if you can't see a direct return, then we have to stop and look at really what we're doing. And maybe it's that you need a tweak, right? It may not be that you need to totally get rid of that, but taking that time to reflect and look at those pieces of data, because it's objective, let's face it, right? I might really enjoy doing that task, but if it's not meeting my audience where they are, and it's not, having them return and take some action, then I have to evaluate whether it's necessary.
Oh, I'd love to dive into that as the next question. I was going to ask you, implementing data-driven decision-making. It is so important to actually have some kind of metric score system to measure the impact of what you're doing, and measure the process, the progress, the decisions that you're making. It can be sometimes that's right, you just love doing it, but it's not actually bringing you return. And that, you can do things just because you love doing them, but other times you really want to be able to make those decisions based on data or evidence. So tell me a little bit about systems that you use and how you structure them, how business owners can effectively implement those types of systems into their operations.
Yeah. So for sure, I just want to point out at the beginning, if you've just heard the word data and metrics and you're thinking spreadsheet with a wall of numbers, I'm scared, I don't want to go there. You don't have to be scared of looking at the numbers. It doesn't have to look like a spreadsheet with a wall of numbers. But what you do have to do is start to ask the questions, because the data, the number, is the answer to the question. And I'll give an example. I was working with a client once, and her target audience were young people fresh out of university. And so she was selling courses and that type of thing to them. And she had a social media assistant already who was pretty much maxed out in terms of capacity. And so the client came to me and said, well, I think we need to be on all the channels all the time because we're serving young people. And, my social media person is almost at capacity. I'm looking, should I be hiring another one? I'm not sure about budget, this and that. And so I said to her, before we go ahead with looking at budget and hiring, let's look at what the data is showing us, because I would rather you be on 1 or 2 channels and do it well and consistently and having a return on that than be on 9 channels and, doing it mediocre. And so when we dug into the back of Google Analytics, it was very interesting what we found. A lot of people were recognizing her brand through Facebook, but where people were actually making a click, so whether they were signing up for something free or, joining something as a paid program, was through Instagram, through YouTube, through TikTok, the other, LinkedIn. She wasn't getting a lot of return at all. And so we could actually narrow down her scope and say, let's focus on the 2 channels that are actually working. Facebook for brand awareness, Instagram for actually taking action. And when we did that, now we cut down the amount of work that the current social media assistant was doing, and she could now handle the plan going forward because we had cut out the extras that weren't giving her that return on investment. But without looking at that objective evidence, we would have never known.
Yeah, brilliant. Brilliantly said. And I hope that's adding so much value to our listeners today, because that is just such a great point. And I found that earlier in my business. When you start a business, people like you, or they want to encourage you, but they're not your customers. This is another classic problem that I had initially, that you go, oh, I've got so many likes on one platform, but that's because your people are liking you. They're actually just liking it, love seeing you grow, love seeing what you do, but they're not actually going to be your customers. And then your customer might be from a totally different platform. And it's like, you need to know that. You need to have a system that is measuring that impact. Also, it's quite freeing, isn't it? That every time you do something, you've got to do it well. So sometimes if you're on 7 platforms, it's not necessarily better, because you've then got to do them all in their own specific way for a purpose. And that can then actually be adding to that overwhelm that you're having. So awesome points today. I'd love to talk about time for yourself. And I know you're known for talking about the CEO Power Hour. And I love it because I'm a CEO myself. How do you leverage a CEO Power Hour, and explain what that is for our listeners?
Yeah. So a CEO Power Hour is something I implemented with the clients I was working one-on-one with, and found really great results for them. And really what it is an hour set aside in your calendar. You pick the day and time. It could be a Monday morning first thing. It can be a Friday afternoon before you close up. It can even be a Sunday if you choose that. But you want to set time, the same time week after week, and it's non-negotiable. Meaning that the only thing that gets in the way of you having that power hour is, some life catastrophe, right? But treat it as important sales call, just as important as another call that you would have in your business. And really, it's a date with yourself. So if we think about very big businesses, we have a CEO, they have a board of directors, and they have a bunch of VPs that are reporting to the CEO, right? Mm-hmm. VP of marketing, VP of sales, and they're giving the CEO the big picture of what's happening with the business. We don't have that in small business, but we have to act that way. And so this power hour is an hour for you to review some metrics that you're currently tracking, and reflect on what's happening currently. So part of the metric that you're going to review is where you are with your revenue. Because at the end of the day, while we enjoy what we're doing, making money and making a profit is what we're here for, right? Let's be honest. So we have to ensure that whatever goal we've set up for revenue, we are actually working towards it and know where we are in that track to getting there. And so by looking at your revenue, you can say, oh, this month I wanted to bring in X amount. Here's where I'm at currently. I'm on target. And, I'm going to have a live sale next week, or whatever that looks like. Or the other way around, I'm a bit short. What can I do this week to increase that? Maybe there's some individual reach out you can do, or have a flash sale on one of your products. But if you don't look at what the numbers are showing you, you don't know where you are. And I'm sure many of us, either ourselves or we've heard of people who get, 6 months into the year, and then we realize, I'm nowhere near my goals, right? And I don't want that to happen. So keeping on top of that revenue is one of them. The other piece that you definitely want to look at is how new people are coming into your world. So that top of funnel, if you want to look at it that way, how are you getting new people into your world to learn about you, to eventually then make the commitment and want to work with you? Yes. And so you want to make sure that whatever that strategy is for you, it's working, and you're bringing in a certain number of people on a regular basis, right? That's how we avoid this feast and famine cycle where, we're busy marketing, we're busy getting new clients, and then we start working with the clients and we kind of drop the ball on the marketing side because we're busy with the delivery side. And so our revenue goes up and down like a yo-yo. Right. And so to help flatten that out, it's not going to be 100% flat, but to help flatten that out, we want to ensure that we're continuously bringing new people into our world and continuously having a chance and inviting them to work with us.
Beautifully said, and such a priority. Often we do not prioritize this. It's kind of like, for me, that's one of the things that you actually should have in your diary, blocked out. CEO Power Hour, not negotiable. It's like my husband and I have date night Friday night. We have for 36 years. And it's kind of like, our adult children come over and go, oh, sorry, we didn't mean to intrude date night, because they know we still have it. It's kind of like, it's not negotiable. Do not even enter the room, whatever. And so I think it's such a priority, because that's it. Then you're constantly assessing and monitoring, prioritizing. And you need to do it in that sort of way. I agree. Sometimes we get so lost in, which is what we were talking about earlier, of the operations and the doing. And then you get those emergencies. It's like, oh no, I'm $10,000 short on what I thought I was doing. And then you can make some impulsive decisions, rash decisions, which might bring in the cash, but they might not necessarily be great for your business, because people then go, oh, well, now I'll wait for the next flash sale because she has them sometimes. Where you don't actually want to have those, because, you know, it stops that. I also love what you shared there about, you know, that funnel of new people coming in, because let's face it, to our listeners, most people, this is the life of an entrepreneur, a small business owner. You're wanting new people to be coming in all the time. It takes time to nurture those people. The rare different situation is, I had one this week that one of my children needed to see a doctor, and then when I rang up the person that they were referred to, the receptionist said, oh, that doctor's not taking new patients at the moment, they're full. And I went, wow, imagine that. Like, that just fried my head as an entrepreneur. Like, imagine not taking a new client.
Yes.
What? And then I thought about it, because it was obviously so different to my thinking. I'm thinking that's because that person has a model that there's just them. They've got so many people in their network, and they'll be full every day. And if they take on more people, then their people who love them can't see them when they're sick or whatever. So I kind of get it, although... Yeah. And I thought, well, that is a classic outlier business, if that's your model. But also the negative of that is you can't scale, you can't grow more. You just go, I'm at capacity and that's my biz. Now, that is not what Donna and I want for all of our fantastic listeners. We want you to go, you know what, the sky's the limit. How can you actually scale as well as grow, but particularly scale and get the advantage of that. So, such a great, interesting experience for me this week, and it really reaffirmed that how important it is for entrepreneurs to carve out that time and really maximize it. I also think, you know, our schedules, as we said before, they get so busy. And it's one of those areas that, you know, it's really easy to go, oh, I don't have time for that because I'm busy putting out fires or doing things. But as you've just said, it is so important, you know, to make sure that it's the highest priority. You know, do you have examples of clients who go, oh, I haven't actually been able to do that? And just so that, you know, our listeners can go, yep, is that me? What sort of excuses do they give?
Oh, all kinds. Well, I turned on my laptop and my team needed me right away, and I had my inbox was full, and, you know, whatever excuse will come, right? But at the end of the day, we set up 12-month goals. I like to break those down into 90-day goals and then into monthly goals, right? Beautiful. So if we're looking at small bites of monthly goals, we need to do something each week towards those monthly goals. And if we're not taking the time to look at where we are and what we need to do this week, the week will pass us by, the month will pass us by, right? And we won't be able to then focus on what those goals are. And at the end of the day, that's what they say. I don't have time to work on my goals because I'm doing X, Y, and Z instead. Yeah. Right. So I want to flip the script and say, no, turn the pyramid upside down. Your most important thing is what those goals are. That's what's going to come first. So yes, your inbox might be exploding, but it can wait.
It can certainly wait, because you're making a strategic plan. That's what this is. We're talking about a game plan for success, right? We're personalizing your own game plan for success, right? So that sort of process, is that exactly what you do? Walk us through that. How do you create a personalized game plan that is going to help your entrepreneurs to be able to really, you know, dominate their week and their growth, but they also need to maintain a healthy work-life balance. So there's certain elements that they're going to have to consider when they're developing this plan. Because for the first step, we're doing like focus on your business, get those annual plans, 90-day plans, monthly plans. And then we also have to go, but you've also got a life.
Exactly. That's right. And so part of what happens is that we might set our 12-month goals. And when we set our 12-month goals, we have to go beyond just revenue. So when we say, I want a revenue goal of X amount, now we have to dig deeper and say, what services and offers are we actually going to have to reach that revenue goal, right? So, I'm going to do one-on-one, or I'm going to do group, or I'm going to sell this. What are those things? What are those price points? And how many people do we need to get in front of to sell the right amount to be able to reach that goal.
Yes.
So reverse engineering all of that is kind of the first step. And then from there, we want to look at what a model calendar would look like for you as CEO of your business. So you take a blank calendar, can be Google, can be paper, it doesn't matter. And the first thing, because yes, I believe life is still entwined with business and we need both. So the first thing I encourage everyone to do is write down those non-negotiables for your life into your calendar. So that might be morning time exercise. That might be dropping kids off at school, Friday night date nights, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you clock out early on Friday, so you have a little chance to relax and then move into your date night. But you block off those things first and foremost. Because if you don't, you're going to get to the end of the week and say, well, I didn't have time. I'm trying to squeeze in this piece and that piece, and it's not happening, right? So put that in first, because you have to be filled up to be able to then serve others. And especially as women, we know this falls on our shoulders a lot, right? So setting up that time. Then from there, we're going to set up the time when your business is actually open. Now, for those of us running online businesses, we're going to say, well, what do you mean open? I don't have a store.
24/7.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But we want to have a set time when you know I'm working, I'm at my laptop. Your team and your clients also know if they reach out, those are the expected hours they can hear from you. You might choose to do something outside of those set business hours. That's up to you if you do. But you need to have those clearly explained both to your team and your clients so they know that's the parameters that you work in. And then within those business hours, you're going to be blocking off these CEO level tasks. So marketing's a piece of the game, whether we like it or not, it's a piece of the game. As an operations person, it's not my favorite, but right. And so we need time each week to do the activities that we're responsible for related to marketing, right? If sales is still something we do, that needs to be in our calendar as well. Client delivery, that needs to be in our calendar. And so really, we don't want to block off every minute, every hour, but we want to have chunks of time when we can sit and focus and get in that flow state and really work on that thing that we need to do. So setting up that ideal calendar is helping set up that work-life balance and those boundaries.
Yeah, I love that whole focus on boundaries. This is what it is. And this is one of the areas that I noticed for myself over the years, and definitely the clients that I've worked with, setting up these boundaries to protect yourself, to actually keep yourself happy, healthy, balanced. It is such a big, this is a gold nugget for our listeners to actually prioritize that time that you set aside for yourself. It's like, before I do all the business planning, what do I need for myself? That's right. Like I shared my date night or helping out, at the moment I drop my granddaughter down to school, pick her up and bits and pieces. I've decided certain things are important for my life, for my health, for my balance, for my relationships, and actually to be brave enough and bold enough to actually pop them in the diary first and then make them not negotiable. What it does, Donna, is it actually then showed me how much time I really do have. Otherwise you feel like I've got so much time for my business, because you've actually devalued the importance of things for yourself and your self-sacrifice. And I think I'm going to shout it out here. Women, we self-sacrifice way too much. We go and, I can help everybody. I can do everything. And then you get to the end and the amount of people who are just burnt out, just overwhelmed, it's all comes crashing down. And so one of the biggest learnings I've had is that you do need to prioritize. You need to know what keeps you happy and healthy and balanced, and then prioritize that so that we can then work out what those hours are in our busy schedules that are going to make us then more productive and also just enjoy our time working. So there's a lot of reflection, I think. I'd love you to share a little bit about that, reflecting on your personal growth as well as your professional, setting and maintaining those boundaries that
Yes.
they really
well,
align.
Certainly I can give an example from myself, because when I started my business, I'm passionate. I really like what I'm doing. And so, yes, I had boundaries on paper, but the reality was I wasn't sticking to them. Because I wanted to keep doing what I was doing. I was enjoying it. It was bringing me joy, right? My family and friends, on the other hand, were not feeling that same joy, right? So my kids at the time were teenagers. didn't need as much attention from me, but still need some guidance and advice and some love. And so, Mom, are you going to be available later? Mom, when aren't you going to be working? Right? These are some of the signs. Of course, did I see them? No, I was blind to that, right? Kept on.
I'm busy, go away.
Right. Oh, just one more email.
Yeah.
Then eventually my husband said to me, listen, something's going to break here. We need to make a change because we can't keep going the way we're going. And so that was, well, I didn't like to hear it. That was really the stopping point when I was like, okay, I need to look at this differently if I want to grow this business without losing my family and my friends, right? And so, yes, it's a hard lesson to learn, but one that's necessary. And I'm glad it happened before I got to the point of actual burnout, because I was on a track to burnout. I just didn't see it. Right?
It's so easy too, isn't it? Because you just get obsessed. It's amazing when you love what you do. I know other people go, how can you get so obsessed about work? I tell you what, a lot of us do, because we've got businesses that we've created that we are just purpose driven. We're 100% passionate. And you can then suddenly realize, that I'm working ridiculous hours for the return that I've got, or there is sacrifice. I remember that. I had a crushing moment like that too, Donna, that when actually, it was my mother. I said, why didn't you call me for something? And she just went, well, you're always too busy. And I went, wow, that's huge, right? It's like, you don't realize that I've obviously said, sorry, can't, got something on, have to do something. But when it counts, you want, that was a priority that I thought I was available for the things that matter, but then it wasn't. And it hurts, doesn't it?
It certainly hurts. Yes. And it took, like you say, it took a lot of time to reflect and really step back. This wasn't like, oh, next week I've flipped and I've changed, right? Not at all. And so a lot of these frameworks and things we're talking about now are things that I had to go through to get to where I am now. And I'm not perfect, right? I still have those days, but I want to believe I have the mindset that I can be 1% better this week than I was last week, right? Yeah. And so taking that time to really reflect and review and say, okay, what can I do differently? How can I set up my time so that I'm maximizing it for both myself, my family, and my business?
Fantastic advice today, Donna. Absolutely a wealth of information. I hope our listeners have been taking notes. If not, just watch this replay or listen to this replay again, because there's been so many gold nuggets in this conversation. And what I love is that, once you've got that strategic mindset, that game plan for your business and life, and we're all about the balance and being able to really fulfill all of our dreams both ways, personally and professionally, it really is possible, but it's about having clarity around what that plan looks like, how that's going to roll out, how long that's going to take. If you suddenly done that planner with a coach such as Donna or myself, and then realize, you don't actually have as many hours in the day as you thought, because you've now valued the things that are important to you. So it might take a little bit longer, or you may have made choices after this process of, oh, well, I can't do all of them. I might need to do 2 out of 7.
Yes.
And I might need to refocus what is really important, or what is going to give the best return, so that I can be able to, enjoy, I'm active lifestyle. So I'd go, I want to make sure that I've got that time that I can go out kayaking if my husband goes, let's go out. I don't want to go, but I'm still working on my planner. I want to know that that time has been set aside and it's free, and it's not a competition. It's not competing for time. It's actually allocated time. And that's what I love. It actually is relaxing when you can get to the point that you can, where everything works, and you go, yep, I'm either on or off, and I've chosen to do that. And I think there's a real freedom and peace that comes with that. So to our listeners, it is actually possible. If you're feeling like, that sounds a bit dreamy, Donna and I have both been through your where you're at the moment, and we totally relate. But definitely, what you're needing is probably just need a little bit of help to guide you on what is important, what's not, how to actually get yourself set up in that way. So definitely reach out if you need to. Our beautiful listeners, keep those questions coming in via Women's Biz Global. Reach out to myself or Donna. Definitely make contact with us and tell us where you're at, because we value your success. That's what we're all about, trying to help it become a smoother, quicker experience. Thank you so much, Donna Dube, for being on the program today. You have been the most delightful guest.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Women's Biz Podcast. I'm Annie Gibbins, founder and CEO of Women's Biz Global. And if you would like to fast track your future success, pop on over to womensbizglobal.com, where you can find out how our coaching, media and publishing opportunities are helping women just like you to become and be seen as the trusted authorities in their niche. Inquire today and start reining in the abundance you desire.